Welcome to the Vet to Vet podcast. I'm your host, Bill Fitters. Join me as I talk to fellow veterans about their military experiences. Experiences from Vietnam to Operation Enduring Freedom. This podcast is sponsored by Tugs. Talking, understanding, growing, and supporting. Even big ships need a little help sometimes. Feel free to hit the subscribe button below to get our latest Vet to Vet interview. Feel free to like, share, and leave a comment below. And thanks for joining us. We're sitting down with Staff Sergeant Don Runaas. How are we doing today?
Good, how are you?
I should add Army.
Army, yeah.
So let's talk about prior to going in the military. What was life like for Mr. Runaas?
Well, I grew up in Evansville, Wisconsin, not too far from here. Mom and Dad were divorced when I was like 5, or before I was 5, but 5-ish. Went through school. My mom kicked me out of my house at 15 because I was a bad kid. And lived with my aunt and uncle for my last 3.5 years of high school. Got back in contact with my dad after my mom not allowing him to see me. My grandpas on both sides were military. All my uncles on my dad's side were military. And I knew I needed more discipline. I really did. And my aunt and uncle did a lot of straightening me out, but I needed more. And I knew that because I didn't want to end up like my mom or, some of the other people I had grown up around, the adults. So I enlisted in the Army my junior year of high school.
Oh, okay.
I went to basic training in Fort Lost in the Woods, Missouri. Between my junior and senior year of high school. So while all my other friends were out partying and having a good time over the summer, I was getting my butt kicked, crawling over rocks at Fort Leonard Wood. Came back, did my senior year. I think I was home 10 days after graduation, and then off to Fort Dix, New Jersey for AIT. And I enlisted as a light-wheeled vehicle mechanic.
Okay.
Married my high school sweetheart, and I didn't really want to get married at the time, but I was one of those people, don't tell me I can't do something. Her dad didn't like me.
Ah, yeah.
So he said I couldn't see her anymore. I was like,
There's that incentive.
Watch this.
Right. Game on.
Yep. So I married my high school sweetheart. We got stationed at Fort Hood, Texas. Did my first tour, or contract, I guess. But about 2.5 years in, my wife decided I was out in the field too much and needed some company, so we got a divorce, and it affected me and my performance in my unit. So after my first contract, I moved back home, transferred to the Guard. Was in the Guard for a couple years.
Is that out of Madison, Milwaukee, Beloit?
We're out of Madison, okay. Right on Wright Street.
Oh, okay.
And then later on, like 2000, we moved up to Volkfield. But so I was working out of the Guard 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks in the summer. Owned my own truck for a while, drove semi across the country, did my weekend drills. Switched MOSs, became a medic.
Kind of a different...
Grease for guts.
Right.
It seemed like a fair trade.
Yeah.
No, I mean...
I think more people would go the other way.
I wasn't happy with the Army's idea of a mechanic.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, you're pretty much a parts replacer. You're not really digging deep into engines and, boring them out and stuff when they're needing it. So I just wanted something a little more busy. Plus something that I could transfer better into a better career outside of the military.
Absolutely.
Because I really didn't I liked driving truck, but I wanted to be home too.
Mm-hmm.
So I became a medic, and then I was offered a position in the personnel and admin section of the National Guard full-time at the headquarters for the state. So I took that. So now I'm full-time Guard. And worked in the G1, doing paperwork and stuff for everyone in the state, and then did my medic stuff on the weekends. We lost a bunch of NCOs in our dental section. So the commander asked me if I would go become a dental sergeant.
Oh, okay.
Sure, why not?
What unit is this?
Wisconsin Medical Detachment.
Okay.
They're a non-deployable unit. They used to be, back in Desert Storm, they deployed. But after some reconfiguration in the state, they became a non-deployable unit. They get the rest of the Wisconsin Guard ready to deploy medically.
Okay.
So I went down to Fort Sam for a month and did an advanced dental tech course, which was at night, which was really weird.
Yeah.
Being at Fort Sam at night, going to class where the normal trainees were during the day at night.
It's like night school.
With E4s and E5s and E6s. I was the only E6, so I got to be platoon sergeant for that group of misfits. But, yeah, it was fun. So I was, well, then about the same time, the Army restructured their MOS classifications too. So 63 Bravo, light wheeled vehicle mechanic, was now 91 Bravo, light wheeled vehicle mechanic, and 91 Bravo, which was medic, went to 68 Whiskey. And they changed a bunch of stuff. Like to be a 68 Whiskey, you had to hold a national EMT card.
Okay.
And to be, because I hadn't worked in the 63 Bravo mechanic place for a while, I had to have someone write out a piece of paperwork saying that I knew a lot about vehicle maintenance to hold that MOS still. So, and you know him, Mark Bridges used to own Master Tech.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to work on my car down there all the time. We tore my F-250 apart. I mean, raised the cab off it, tore the engine apart.
Wow.
I mean, so he just filled out a letter saying, you know, I did all this work, and he's a witness. He's, you know, owner of Master Tech. So I held 3 MOSs at the time, or concurrently, and was current in all of them.
Nice.
Which was really weird for most people to understand. So an opportunity came up for me to go to Afghanistan on an agriculture team to teach the Afghans how to raise something other than poppy. Well, that unit was supposed to be like 100 people, and they whittled it down to 22, and I didn't make the cut.
That's a lot of whittling.
Yeah, but this was at the time they were trying to draw back on some of the troops and some of the money we were just handing out over there.
Mm-hmm.
So I got taken off of that. Well, then I was offered another opportunity to go with a security force advisory team, which I did. So in 2013, I went to Afghanistan with this 104th Security Force Advisory Team. I'm an E6, lowest ranking person in the unit.
Wow.
And I'm the only medic. There's no doctor over me. I make all the calls.
That's crazy.
So I had to go to Fort Sam and take a advanced course where I could issue out narcotics and do all this advanced medical stuff on my own without a doctor saying, yeah, go ahead.
Wow.
So yeah, lowest ranking person on my team.
As an E6?
As an E6.
Wow.
There's only 4 NCOs.
Everybody else is...
Myself, 2 E7s, and a sergeant major, and the rest were all officers.
That's a lot of chiefs.
Yeah, a lot of them. It was only one, really, but I ain't gonna get into that. We won't put all my thoughts on the unit out in the street. General Anderson knows what my thoughts of the deployment were. He actually pulled me in his office when I got back, and he goes, "Runaas, tell me about your deployment." And I kind of gave him the politically correct version, and he goes, "Runaas, I called you up here because I know you don't bullshit." He goes, "Tell me what you really thought." And I did, and I don't want to say it was me, but the commander of that unit is no longer in the Guard, and he was, because you reach 20 years in the Guard, and you have to have permission to stay in from a board, and the board didn't approve him back in the board. So, yeah, I don't know if that was partly because of what I said or whatever, but it is what it is.
Yeah, but it's guys like that, like you, that are looking out for the future troops that are coming in. Because if they have a commander or a officer that isn't doing what they should or is doing what they shouldn't, command needs to know that so they can protect the troops in the future too.
Oh, yeah, and I had the reputation in the headquarters building of being a no bullshit guy.
That's good.
Because
that's excellent.
I don't really want to get into storytelling here. I have a couple good stories. I was working in a section, and I wrote an SOP for the entire state. One-star general didn't like my policy, even though I took my policy straight from Army regulation. He was a general. All general officers must provide a urine sample once a year. He don't like peeing in front of people. So he tried everything he could to get me to change it.
Wow.
And I would show him. We were getting called up to his office or to a conference room. Me, a CW5, myself, and my Air Force counterpart were getting called up there like every 2 weeks, and he would say the same thing, and we would tell him the same thing and show him in black and white in the Army regulation that you must. It doesn't say you can if you want to. You must provide a specimen. And this went on for like 6 months, every 2 weeks for 6 months. And one day I had just had enough. And I said, "Sir, are you a fucking idiot? It says it right here in black and white." And the CW5 calmed the situation down and told the general he'd yell at me later for the insubordination, which was pretty much a pat on the back and thank you, because he's been wanting to say it for months. 2 weeks later, I drafted a new policy. Although it still said he had to pee once a month, I just changed a couple other things that he wanted to change, which were no big deal. And he wrote me and my Air Force counterpart a letter of appreciation 2 weeks later. So there's that.
Yeah.
And then well, we can talk about it a little later in the program. I won't tell two stories at once, but I have a real good story. A feel-good story about a general and myself later. We'll hit on that at the end of my career.
So what was your first trip to Afghanistan like?
Well, the first trip was kind of an adventure. I flew Stradair with our equipment on a Russian cargo airplane, a huge thing. There was 6 MLRS rocket launcher trucks in the belly of this thing.
Yeah.
Huge plane. And we flew to Germany, wake up the next morning, and the Russians were buying our hotel and everything overnight. So the taxpayers got off. But we're in this hotel, and we wake up the next morning and we meet at the rendezvous point, which was the lobby of the hotel. And they're like, "We're not flying today. We're going to stay another night. The next place is fogged in. We're going to the United Arab Emirates next," or something. And it was fogged in. And this went on for 10 days.
Oh, my.
And after the 3rd day, they're telling us, it ain't looking good for a few days. So if you guys want to go out and do something, go do it. So here we are. It's me, a second lieutenant from my team, there was a E4 and a lieutenant from another team out of Michigan, National Guard. And none of us had passports. We were deploying.
Right. You don't
So all we had was our
passports.
military IDs and uniforms. So we went downtown. We all bought like sweatpants, a sweatshirt. We rented a car, and we toured Germany for 7 days because we were there for 10.
Isn't Germany beautiful?
Oh, yeah.
Whereabouts were you at in Germany?
We went all over Germany. I forget the name of the town we were in. Starts with a K.
Kaiserslautern?
No, a short name.
Ah.
Like Kiel or something, just really short. But, yeah, we drove all over Germany. Went and toured like 4 castles. Did like 3 museums, 1 military museum that was really cool. I bring this up, but I shouldn't. It's really neat to see how different other countries view wars. I mean, we grew up learning American history, or what we think is American history.
Right.
You go to another country and go through their museums and read their version of it, of what happened, you will really question a lot about what you learned in school, about what actually happened.
Yeah, I had a guy stationed in Japan that same thing. Met up with an elder that was during Pearl Harbor and World War II. It said the same thing. He says, there's another side to the story.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
And some of what you were told, I'm sorry to tell you, isn't true.
Right. Well, winners write the story.
Right.
That doesn't mean it's the truth.
Right. Exactly.
It's our version.
It's our version.
Yeah. So we're touring around Germany. What'd you think of the food? And
the food's really, really salty. I mean, I loved it. I love going to foreign countries. I mean, in the medical detachment for the Wisconsin National Guard, we have a sister partnership with Nicaragua. So for years, for our annual training, we were going to Nicaragua and doing all these MedReap missions. And me and Colonel Lee, who at the time was the state surgeon, he's a foodie. He would buy the local foods, and I would eat it. I love it. Wherever I am, I've traveled quite a few places, and wherever I am, I want to eat the real local food. I don't want to go to Mexico or like Tijuana or something and eat at the touristy part of town. Right. I want to like walk 2 miles down the road to where you probably shouldn't go. Right. But that's where I want to eat because that's real.
Yeah. That's like when I came back and first got into Evansville, I went down to Romano's.
Oh, yeah.
And I asked Frank if he could make, I can't remember what it was. And he's like, "You've been to Italy?"
Yep.
And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Huh." And he whipped it up to a T. You know, I'm like, "How come you don't have that on your menu?" He goes, "Because people don't know what it is." You know, I said, "But you should fix that. That is, I mean, keep fixing it."
If you can get people to try most of the stuff, they'll like it.
Just don't ask what's in it.
Right. That's a fact.
Korea, turkey, just don't ask. Just eat it.
But your German, German potatoes, you can get around here at certain restaurants and stuff. It doesn't taste the same. No. It is way more salty in Germany than it is here.
Yeah, and they're supposed to get a better healthcare system than ours, so maybe that's why they can eat that stuff.
Yeah, we won't get started.
No. So we finally get out of Germany and
get out of Germany, go to United Arab Emirates. They load in some antenna tower, and then we finally get to Afghanistan, get to Bagram, wait a day, then fly to Camp Arena now, and met up with our unit.
Is that a FOB or?
Yeah, Camp Arena is a multinational FOB. It used to be called Camp Stone. There's actually a documentary about Camp Stone that was named after a medic who passed away. And then when it became a multinational headquarters, it changed to Camp Arena.
So what was it like there?
It's in RC West. So the west side of Afghanistan is pretty chill when it comes to Americans. They like us being there. It's a totally different ball game in RC West or RC East.
East, yeah.
East is you better come to play because you're gonna be in firefights every day. But RC West was really chill. We did get in one firefight the whole time we were there, and we got too close to a poppy field, which from what I understand from all my other buddies, once you got close to the poppy fields, that's when all the firefights happen. You could walk down pretty much anywhere in Afghanistan. As long as you weren't near a poppy field, you were probably okay.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we got in one firefight. None of us on our team got hurt. There was only 14 people on my team.
Right.
So we would only go on missions with like half of that. Half of them would stay at the FOB. Half of us would go out with the Afghan border police who we were advising. So we got in a firefight. I got a combat medic badge. I didn't have to fix any of our guys. I was fixing Afghan guys.
So I got to ask you this. With all the betrayal that we had with some of the Afghan locals, how did you adjust?
Oh, yeah, because we were talking about this before.
but I mean, we had a lot of soldiers get turned on by people that were within our base.
Yeah, there was a lot of insider threat warnings before we went, and a lot of it in our training prior to going. So after 10 days in Germany and finally getting to Afghanistan, our FOB with 14 guys was about 100 yards by 100 yards in the middle of the Afghan border police base of operations with 3,000 soldiers, wow. Afghan border police soldiers. So we're constantly surrounded. I mean, we had a barricade around our FOB, but still,
right.
it wouldn't have taken much to get overrun in like a second if they wanted to.
Yeah.
But as an advisor, we would have to, each person on our team was assigned someone from the Afghan border police to advise, and I was advising a medical colonel because their version of medical doctor is totally different than what it is in the United States. I knew way more than this guy about medicine. So the first, I think we're there 2 or 3 days after me and the lieutenant finally arrived, their general called us all down as a team to his office. He welcomed us, thanked us for coming, blah, 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 told us what his wants and needs were. And then he swore to us no harm would come to us while we were there, because he would take it as a personal, failure. And much like the Japanese, if you fail, you commit hara-kiri. I mean, that's how serious this guy was about it. So for like the first week we were doing the guardian angel thing, I would typically walk down with my vest and my 9mm, and then I would have another guy with me with an M4, and he would just kind of stand guard over me while I did my advising. That lasted about a week for all of us.
Yeah.
I mean, after like a week, I'm walking down there with just my combat shirt on, which is what you wear under your flak jacket or your plate carrier, and my pants and my boots and my cap and my 9mm. That's how I would walk down there. Me and the interpreter would just walk down there like it was another day in the park,
Yeah.
And I felt fine. I mean, I never felt really scared being down there with just me and the interpreter and just having a 9mm, except for one day when I screwed up and my interpreter saved my life because I'm a medic, right? So they had a female medic, and she was asking me about this spot on her hand. And the females over there kind of keep huddled up to themselves, like their hands tucked in like a T-Rex or something, so you don't, see them or whatever. And she's talking about this thing on her hand, and I just reached out and I grabbed her hand and I started flicking it to see if it was a fatty growth or whatever it was. You know, you got to see what's in it, or, you know, get a good idea of what it is. Don't touch the females, Sergeant Runaas. Don't touch the females. And there's like 5 Afghan border police guys that got up and were about to kick my hind end. And my interpreter stepped in and said, no, it's okay. He wasn't, you know, he was just investigating the situation and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, he saved my life on that one.
So was that the last female you examined?
No, actually. I had
without threat to your life.
I had to examine another one, unfortunately. Afghan women are no different than American women, and when in the service will do weird things with their bodily parts and foreign objects.
Yeah. So what was your typical day? Getting up at what time?
Well, let's see. If we weren't on a mission, my typical day, I wake up early all the time. So 4:30, I'm up. I would chill out in my room. I had a PlayStation in my room, you know, a bass guitar. I had all kinds of stuff in there. The bass guitar was sent to me by an artist rep for Dean Guitars that I know, so that was cool. So I had all this stuff, so I'd sit in my room for a couple hours in the morning and just, you know, kind of chillax and whatnot, and then I'd go eat breakfast and stop by the talk and do some paperwork and whatever, and then about 9 in the morning I would walk down to the Afghan border police doctor and talk with him for an hour or so. Come back, write a report, play foosball with the interpreters. I mean, that was a boring day. But then out on missions, it was totally different.
Yeah.
Like I said, only half of us would go out on missions, and we were with the Afghan border police. So we were checking out their guard towers. And for every guard tower, they're only a mile apart at most. You can normally see the next tower from the tower you're at. But all around the whole country, they have towers. Anywhere there's a border. And right across from their tower is the tower for whatever country they're against, whether it be Iran or Pakistan or whatever. So we're doing troop inspections, you know, because the Afghans are kind of weird and used to doing things way different than we are. Like, they would send these soldiers out there, and it's like 4 of them to a guard tower and leave them there.
Wow.
And they would never see anyone of any rank or nothing for months until a truck came out with 4 new dudes to take their place. And they'd never see an officer.
Oh, okay.
So we said, you got to go check on them. You got to check out their living conditions and what they're doing. So that's kind of what we're doing. Well, we're going along the Iranian border one day, and we have I can't even think of what it's called. We have a drone overhead being piloted by this guy in Texas. And we're on the wrong side of the border, according to him. Even though we're driving the border, we know where it is. There's these little concrete pylons in between each of the guard towers, too, that shows you where the border is. And he's like, you're in Iran, you're in Iran. We're like, no, we're not, no, we're not. So anyways, we stop at this guard tower, which was a Connex trailer, really, sitting on the ground. That's all it was, across from this Iranian tower, which is like the Taj Mahal compared to what the Afghans had. But there's 2 Afghans on top of this tower just eyeballing us through binoculars. And I give the old shoulder shrug with arms up, what's up? After like 15 minutes of them just gawking at us. Well, then one of them raised his rifle in there, and I flipped him off with 2 fingers. And the major starts yelling at me, Runaas, you're going to start an international incident. I'm like, no, I won't. The drone operator will frickin' take that tower down in seconds after they fire the first round.
Right.
I remember the hostage Iranian cross, you know.
So, temperature-wise, when you were over there, what was it like in the area that you're at?
Hot.
Hot?
hot during the day, and I'll tell you something. It was 130 degrees one day, and you're wearing all your gear, you know, your plate carrier and all that, and full uniform. You can't roll the sleeves up. It's not like training. You can't roll the cuffs of your pants up and all that. Kevlar helmet, all that stuff, and 130 degrees during the day. So we have a RON site, rest overnight, and we hooked up with an engineer unit to do this RON site. So we got all our trucks in a circle, you know, for defensive posture. I had all 3 parts of my sleeping bag. I mean, the cold weather cover, 2 layers of the sleeping, because it dropped to 99 degrees. Mm-hmm. When it drops 31 degrees in a couple hours, it's cold.
Yeah. Even 99 degrees is cold compared to 130 something.
Right.
Yeah.
And people didn't believe me. They're like, no way. I said, oh, yeah, I was freaking shivering, too.
Where we take that here.
Oh, yeah, I'd take that any day of the week.
That'd be good riding all year round.
Oh, yeah.
So how long were you in Afghanistan then for that deployment?
Well, I medevaced out with 3 weeks left. I twisted up my knee pretty bad and tore up some stuff, got a bunch of fluid on my knee. Went from our fob to Camp Arena, had an orthopedic surgeon look at it. He drained a ton of fluid off of it, like 120 cc's of fluid off my knee.
Wow.
And he goes, and our XO was like, well, we want him to stay. Can he stay? We only have, 4 weeks left. And he's like, he can stay, but if it swells up again, I got to send him. He goes, that needs in bad shape. So I went back, and I got just talk duty, no going out on mission. And being the only medic, I went on every mission. Mm-hmm. So I kind of felt like I let the unit down because now they couldn't go out and do missions anymore, stuff like that. But I stayed just on talk duty during the overnight, so I wasn't walking around much. I was just monitoring the cameras and answering phones if they rang and doing a lot of Facebook, which wasn't bad because in the middle of the night over there, it's the middle of the day here.
Yeah.
I was having lots of good conversations. So by Wednesday, because I went and got checked on a Friday, by Wednesday my knee was swelled back up the way it was. Friday we went in to Camp Arena again, talked to the orthopedic surgeon again, and he's like, I'm sending you home. And as much as the XO didn't want me to go home, I was going home. Spent 3 days at Camp Arena waiting for an airplane. Airplane took me to Bagram, which is in RC East, which was fun because I heard lots of gunfire. So I get to Bagram and got stuck there overnight. Flew to Landstuhl, was there for 5 days. Got back to Andrews, got stuck there for 3 days because of broken airplane.
Yeah, they break.
Yeah, but it's Andrews.
Yeah, they should have another one.
There's 4 presidential airplanes sitting right outside. If you want me to call the White House, I will. I want to go home.
Right.
Yeah, the Master Sergeant Liaison on the Air Force Base there thought I was freaking hilarious because I said that. I was like, I'll call him up. I don't care. Hell, I'll drive there. Give me a vehicle.
Yeah, you're not going to get Air Force 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to take you home. No.
No, but they have little Lear jets too.
Yeah.
With the presidential symbol on it. It's like, let us go up in one of them.
There's got to be something available.
So anyway, C-17 is what we're waiting for. And they have 2 of them that leave every day. One of them handles everything east of the Mississippi. One of them handles everything west of the Mississippi. We took off at 6 a.m. in the morning. Washington, D.C., or, close enough. That's where Andrews is. Mm-hmm. It took us till 11:30 at night to get to Fort Knox, Kentucky, where me and this other guy who was from Indiana, were getting off because they send you to the nearest military hospital to your home of record. And that's where you're going to get fixed.
So you guys did a lot of stops.
Oh, yeah, we went everywhere. I think we left Andrews and went to Fort Dix. You'd have spent less money driving the guy there. It ain't that far. And probably got there faster.
That's how we traveled in Europe. We called it hops.
Right.
You just jump on whatever plane's going that way.
I think there was like 15 hops.
And yeah, you're hopping
on the east side of the Mississippi, and Fort Knox was last. Fort Campbell was right before that, and we'd refueled there. But the pilots did buy us lunch.
Oh, that was nice of them.
Yeah. So the guy I was there with from Indiana, him and I are actually really good friends still. I mean, we talk on Facebook all the time. He's come up here, and we spent a week at the Kalahari together, him and his wife and the girlfriend I had at the time. Yeah, we're close because we went through the medevac flight, which wasn't terrible, but some of the crap we had to deal with at Fort Knox. I mean, here I am a staff sergeant, and I have a staff sergeant platoon leader, and I'm a medic, and he's like a cannon crew member, and he's trying to tell me how to medically take care of myself.
Wow.
Yeah, I got yelled at down there.
I take you educated him along the way, though.
I did.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a discussion with the commander, a captain, who was an MP. I don't get how their rehab platoons and stuff worked, but he was an MP, and he was telling me how to medically take care of myself because he had heard it from a doctor that I told him, no, I wasn't going to do that. Because the fluid on my knee was not caused by swelling. The fluid on my knee was caused by my body pushing it in there to protect my knee because it was injured. I could have iced it for days, and the swelling wasn't going to go down. And I tried explaining that to them, and they didn't get it. And then finally I said, I'm a combat medic. It says it right here on this badge on my shirt. Why are you, an MP and a cannon crew member, trying to tell me what's best for me?
Right.
Oh, that was my answer. They pretty much left me alone after that.
That's good.
And then after I had my surgery down there, which they did at the University of Louisville, not at the Fort Knox Hospital, they asked me if I wanted to stay and be a platoon sergeant.
Oh, nice.
I was like, no, I want to go home.
Right.
I'll go back to my cushy desk job.
So is that what you did then?
Yeah, I came back to Wisconsin, went right back to the G1, working in personnel. I did not go back to the med det, though. Had an issue with the unit when I left and volunteered. And we won't get into that. I don't want to run anyone's name through the mud or anything like that. But it was uncalled for what they did to me. They also did the same thing to a female major who volunteered to deploy and leave the unit. So, and we both got back at about the same time, and we both refused to go back to that unit. So, because I worked in G1, personnel and administration, I should have been a 42 Alpha the entire time. How I wasn't is a CW5 secret, I guess, of why he never sent me. But we had a new chief in the G1, and she was hot to get me to go, but I was having knee problems like every 3 to 6 months. I was having knee surgeries. I had 7 knee surgeries in 3 years.
Wow.
Until I finally convinced the VA to just replace it. And I had to do all the medical research and appeal it, their decision, to get them to replace it, because they kept telling me, oh, you're too young, they kept trying to find excuses. So I did a bunch of medical research on my own and went to the orthopedic journal, which is what all the orthopedic surgeons get in their office, and The funny thing is, all the excuses they were giving me were covered in there, where what they were telling me was wrong.
So, in other words, they're not reading the journals.
They were, but I think the VA tries to save the taxpayer money when they can, and really they could have just went back in and cleaned it out for the 7th time. But, you know, I wasn't even 50 yet, and I'm like, I want quality of life. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be coming in here every 3 to 6 months having you clean this out, where when it says in this orthopedic journal, if you do a knee replacement, it removes the part where that's causing the problem. And, yeah, I appealed it, and they overturned their decision and replaced it, and I haven't had a problem since.
Really? Good. Now
the downside to that is, and the reason they were trying not to do it, knee replacement lasts about 20, 25 years. Mm. So before I die, God willing, I may have to have another one.
Okay. Yeah, hips are like that too.
Right.
I know guys that have got them done twice.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and yeah, it's I get what you're saying as far as why they would want to put it off, especially if they're going to have to do another one somewhere down the road. But the VA is very good. Well, I'll just put it, the whole VA system, United States wide. I won't point fingers at any one particular VA. Like with Agent Orange,
yeah,
Blue Water, they kind of like to hold things off as long as possible, so they don't have to treat as many for the same thing. In other words, if they die off, then it doesn't cost them as much, which sadly that's kind of how the VA system works. So,
but most people, or I shouldn't say most, there are a lot of Afghanistan veterans who came back with ankle or knee issues because it's all rock. Mm-hmm. There is no level ground over there whatsoever unless you're walking down the road.
Yeah, I've heard that. Matter of fact, I was kid that I talked to said it's kind of like being in the mountains. It's just about rock, you know.
Oh yeah, we drove through a snowstorm one day up in the mountain. Had to switch drivers because the guy driving didn't like driving that MATV in the snow because it felt so weird to him, and I was like, I'll drive it. So we swapped.
Yeah, your Wisconsin upbringing definitely gives you the experience.
Well, then it was a big truck too, and owning my own truck, you know, if you're not used to driving something big, and I mean, an MATV is a heavy vehicle. That thing's armored to the gills, and they're fun to drive.
I was just going to ask you. I bet you that was. So, when we got the knee replaced, that pretty much stopped our deployments?
Oh, yeah. It pretty much stopped my military career, actually.
Well, that sucks.
Because I couldn't go to 42 Alpha School because I hadn't taken a PT test in 3 years because I was constantly going in for knee surgeries and constantly on profile for it. So they did a med board review, and then with my years, they just retired me. Not medically, they just asked me to retire.
And how many years total?
27.
Don't you feel old now, just saying that?
I feel old when I look in the mirror and see all the gray in my beard.
Yeah, but you're not that old.
51.
I know, but you're not
I know. It's crazy. I'm not that old. But I got a lot of gray in my beard.
So now that you're honorably discharged, you get into what? The Combat Motorcycle Association?
The Combat Vets Motorcycle Association. Yeah. I was dealing with the loss of my son 3 years ago. And things not going well with my wife at the time, who's now my ex-wife. And I was just like really scraping the bottom of the barrel as far as depression and, you know, stuff like that. And I went to the VA, saw a therapist because my wife said, why don't you go see a therapist and maybe things will get better and blah, blah, blah.
Was this a PTSD therapist or just a
Yeah.
therapist?
Well, first you go see a general therapist, and they ask you a ton of questions, and then they decide what therapist they're going to pair you with that best matches your symptoms and conditions. So part of it, mine was the loss of my son. Part of it was PTSD. Part of it was, the looming divorce, I guess. At that point, I thought by me going to therapy, I could save the marriage, but she didn't want to put in any effort, didn't want to go to therapy with me to try and help. So, that is what it is. But went to therapy, and the therapist suggested doing or getting involved in a group of like-minded individuals where I could talk and be me, and if I wanted to rock out and punch a wall, they'd
get it,
understand it.
Yeah, they would get it.
And one of my friends that works at the VA, and I've known him for a while, he had joined a month before, and I was like, I'm gonna come check out a meeting and see what's going on, see if it's for me. So I went to a meeting. I was there 20 minutes. And while I was there, I took in a blank application. And after 20 minutes, I had filled it all out, and at the end, turned it in and joined. And it really did save my life. Some of the guys in there are just amazing and helped me through my divorce. And, just emotionally, dude, we got you, whatever.
So what was it during that meeting in that 20 minutes that clicked with you?
The brotherhood. It's nothing explains. Brotherhood is so
overly used, but
it is. But no civilian or no one who's ever been in combat will ever understand brotherhood like we say brotherhood.
I agree. You guys have that.
Yep. You're really tight with those guys. You lived through bullets and stuff, and it bonds you pretty tight. So what's cool about the Combat Vets Motorcycle Association for me is they've all been to combat. Now, we're not all from the same unit.
Right.
Like, there's no one in there that I deployed with, but there's guys from the National Guard that I served with and know pretty well, from working in the G1 and, So we've all been in combat, so we all have this common bond of brotherhood. And when you've all been through the same thing, it's easy to lean on each other. Mm-hmm. And they all understand it. They all understand what you're going through.
So I'll throw this at you and see if you agree or disagree. Okay?
All right.
They say once a military member has went through combat, they die on that day and are reborn a different person. That only a person that has been in combat will understand and be able to mesh with. In other words, they get each other.
I think so. I think there's a whole lot of truth to that. Personal relationships.
How many of your brothers had personal relationship issues too?
Oh, all of them. Or
right.
I don't want to say all, but 99% of them, marital issues. And we deal with stuff different than most people too. Death we deal with different. And we all deal with it in our same way. Like, I lost my son. I cannot see my granddaughter. I love her. I would love to hang out with her, but it tears me up.
Right, understand.
Inside, it tears me up knowing that he's not there. And, I don't know how else to explain it, but it's hard for me to even just hang out with her and play with her and see her smile or whatever, because it just floods the memory banks.
But your brothers understand that.
Yeah, they get it.
That's what.
No one else seems to. I don't even think my parents get it. And you can't explain it to them. Even though my dad was in the Army too, he was never in combat, so I don't think he understands it quite. And I probably never really told them how it makes me feel.
Mm-hmm.
And if I wasn't sitting across from a vet right now, I probably wouldn't be saying how it makes me feel.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's hard to deal with.
So when you're out with the combat veterans, make you feel comfortable?
Oh yeah.
Be yourself?
Oh, that's the most definite. I used to be a real wild child growing up. You were a cop in the town I grew up in.
You're not telling me anything new.
I'm sure there are some stories running around that police department about me still. No, I mean, I never did anything to really be in trouble, but I was a wild child. I and an adrenaline junkie too. I mean, I was airborne. They asked me if I wanted to be airborne when I signed up, and yeah.
Right.
What else you want me to do, stupid? So yeah, there's always been, and even now I'm still an adrenaline junkie. I mean, I retired from the Army, and now I'm climbing cell phone towers and hanging out at 300 feet in the air. I mean, normal people don't do that.
And riding dangerous motorcycles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Motorcycle riding's probably the safest thing I do.
Yeah.
And even that, I push the limits. Me and a couple of the guys in my group, we ride pretty tight together. Like, other motorcycle riders look at us and say, you guys are freaking crazy. But we ride together so much, we know what each other's tendencies are.
Yep.
And I think we all want that adrenaline rush of, yeah, I'm pushing the limit now, you watch.
But you're also pushing that limit with your brother right next to you.
Right.
Or right there.
So it's just like being in combat again.
Exactly.
I'm pushing it. Let's go.
And it's that trust issue. I mean, people see, us going down the road, and they're just like, wow, those guys are nuts. No, not really. I mean, to us, it's normal.
Oh, yeah.
I can look over at the, one of my brothers, whether they be on my right or to my left, and just give them that, and it's on. We're going, And it's that trust that's been built up from riding together. But they're also the same people that can bring me back down real fast and say, okay.
Well, yep. They know when you're pushing way too hard.
Yeah. And we have a tendency to push way too hard.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Because I think it was before we come on and talked about it. We want that back up to here.
Yeah, when you're deployed, that adrenaline level's at 95% at a minimum all the time.
And you know what they say hurts a veteran when they come back? Dealing with daily paying the bills.
Oh, yeah.
Because that kind of stuff they're not used to. They're used to that 95 of being on your toes, situational awareness, mission accomplishment. I
can't tell you how many times I got pulled over in the first year and a half I was back. Be driving down the highway or the belt line and frickin' bag or something on the side of the road, and I'd swerve around that son of a bitch. Madison cop would pull me over, and they'd see my haircut, and I was still in the military for a couple years after I got back, so I'd be in uniform most of the time. So they'd go, when'd you get back? You'd tell them, and they're like, okay, you're not over there anymore.
Right.
Nothing's going to blow up in Madison. And I'm like, yeah, I know.
But it's hard to stop that.
Right. So they would let me go. I mean, I never got a ticket, and I thanked them for that, because that probably could have drove things worse,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And really played on PTSD issues and all that. But no, they were all really cool, and let me go. Because I wasn't being a danger to anybody else. I was just, swerving out of my lane erratically because of garbage on the side of the road, or speeding a few times, because cars would kind of like box you in. And that was usually a very bad sign.
Red flag.
When you're in a convoy. So I would do everything I could to get out of that box and get away from it. But yeah, the driving definitely, that's calmed back down. I still speed a lot, but I don't drive erratically.
So did your counseling, the first one that you were paired up with, take, in your opinion?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they put me on sertraline or whatever to keep my moods level. I mean, they didn't want me, I was just going like scraping the bottom of the barrel, and then I'd come up and bang the side about halfway up and go back down to the bottom. And the sertraline just kind of evened it off where I wasn't experiencing the highs and lows as much, and just kind of kept me level. I'm still on it, but...
Still have good days, still have bad days?
Yeah. Most of them now, though, are just related to my son. Like, the bad days are related to, like, okay, his birthday.
Yeah.
Or, like the other day, my stepmom sent me a picture of my granddaughter. I love getting the picture, don't get me wrong, but emotionally it freaking kills me.
So are we working towards being able to be with the granddaughter?
Yeah, I'm trying. And it keeps me away from my parents, too, or my dad, because she's there every other weekend.
Ah.
So I don't see my dad as much. I mean, it was kind of a little funny story about the other couple weeks ago. We were working in Iowa doing a job, and my dad's retired, but he still drives truck. So he still works full-time driving truck, even though he's retired. But we stopped at Quick Trip in Verona. And we're just walking out after buying our snacky snacks for the trip to Iowa and fueling up our pickups. And my dad's semi pulls in. And I tell my foreman, hey, I got to run over to Diesel Fuel Island. So I run over to Diesel Fuel Island. I give my dad a hug, and, we talk on his walk into the Quick Trip, and off I go. And, off he went. But, I love my dad a lot.
Well, your dad's a hell of a guy.
He's done a lot for me. I mean, I didn't see him for 10 years because, him and my mom had their thing, and my mom kind of tried everything she could to make it happen that way, but he's tried making up for it when he really didn't have to.
Right. It wasn't his fault.
Right. And the night I got kicked out of my mom's house, he actually called the house.
Wow.
Because he was dating his wife at the time. And Evansville's a small town, people. I don't know if you all know. Well, it wasn't the first night. It was the second night. Because the first night I went to my grandparents in Janesville. My grandpa came and picked me up. Drove through a snowstorm in a Chevy Citation. Picked me up in Evansville, took me back to Janesville. I spent the night with my grandparents, and the next day my uncle came over after he got done with work, and they put it to me, you can either stay here with Grandma and Grandpa and go to Craig High School, or not Craig, but Parker in Janesville, or you can go live with your aunt and uncle in Evansville. And I was like, I'm teetering the edge. I've been playing with alcohol for the last 3 years probably. At the age of 15, going to Parker High School, probably not a great idea.
Right.
I can get away with drinking in Evansville, or back then I could. I knew the cops. The cops knew me. I mean, the worst I was going to get was taken home and someone telling my parent or my mom or, my aunt and uncle. So I was willing to take that bet. I've never done drugs, ever. And I knew even at the age of 15, if I would have went to Parker, I would be a totally different person right now.
But it was prominent in Evansville. So you made a lot of wise choices while you were living in Evansville.
Oh, I did. And I knew that. I mean, I had friends in high school that I don't care if people smoke marijuana. I really don't.
No.
But as soon as my friends started hitting anything other than marijuana, done.
Yeah.
I'm not your friend no more.
I wish I could have said that with some of my friends. But
And I'm serious. I mean, it was probably one of my best friends got into something a little harder than marijuana, and I cannot be your friend anymore. And we didn't talk from, we were probably juniors, and I probably didn't talk to him till like 5-6 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we'd see each other. Hi, how's it going?
Right.
But we didn't like have a conversation.
Wow. That's a good decision on your part, though.
Well, I saw it. I mean, my mom was addicted to prescription drugs, so I saw what it did, and I knew I didn't want to do that.
Right.
I mean, my mom pretty much gave up on all 3 of her kids for drugs, for prescription drugs. So, I mean, I didn't want to do that.
So you made some smart choices early on, too.
Yeah, I tried.
You did real good.
Along with all the dumb ones.
Well, the dumb ones were just errors we learned.
Right.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to add, sir?
Well, let's come back to the funny story of my
There we
retirement. So, my last day in the military, and for anyone who's done a career in the military, you always get an award at the end. Someone always writes you up for an award. So my direct line supervisor, which was an E7, Sergeant First Class, who didn't like me, writes me up for an Army Commendation Medal for a retirement award. So it's all done on a AR-348, or is it a DA-348? I think it's a DA-348, request for award. So the front gives you my didactic information, my name, rank, social, all that crap. And then at the bottom is, the writing of what the certificate will say. Well, then the back of it is the chain of command and the approval process. Mm-hmm. So it goes from my NCO writes it up, goes to the commander, major. He approves it. Goes to the G1, which is a colonel. He approves it. Goes to the Army Chief of Staff, which is a colonel. He approves it. Gets to General, I ain't going to say his name, but it gets to the Deputy Adjutant General, the highest ranking Army National Guardsman. He disapproves it.
Is this the guy that won't pee?
No,
okay.
That's a different guy.
Okay.
This is the guy that wanted the truth about my deployment.
Ah, okay.
It gets to him. He disapproves an ARCOM and checks the upgrade box.
Wow.
To Meritorious Service Medal. We're talking 27 years. I think I deserve a Meritorious Service Medal.
Right.
Which is the highest non-combat medal you can get.
Yeah.
And he writes on the 348 in his comment section, 27 years, really? You're only putting him in for an ARCOM? I have that 348 framed on my wall. The certificate's still in the green binder, presentation binder, but the 348 is framed on my wall.
Wow. I would too. I would have that up there too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then the master sergeant, who was the G1 secretary, after I got it presented, she's like elbowing me as, the CW5, who was my boss for a while, he's talking about me and stuff afterwards, and the master sergeant's elbowing me, and she's going, read the 348, read the 348. So I pull out the 348 and I read it, and I start laughing out loud in front of everybody. And they asked me what the problem was. So the whole unit got to hear how crappy their chain of command was because I was laughing.
That's a nice little as you went.
Yeah, but I still go in there. I still talk to a lot of those folks and stop by and try and get that general to go out on a Harley ride with me. Keep saying he wants to, but
Maybe he'll join up with you. Has he ever seen combat?
oh yeah,
There you go. Get another brother.
he went with the 32nd when they went as the whole caboodle.
Yeah. You know, a lot of you guys from Evansville have served.
Oh yeah,
A lot.
there was a bunch.
Yeah. I don't know why most of them went Marine, though, but...
They like the taste of the crayons.
Yeah. Maybe it's something in the water there.
No, but yeah, the combat vets has definitely helped me. And then I also work part-time for JJO, and Randy Hawk has put me kind of in charge of what veterans groups we bring in. So, yeah, I get to give back that way to my fellow vets.
You guys do a huge...
Radiothon.
Yeah.
Randy and I go 28 hours straight
Man.
for vets and raise. Well, this year we raised $22,000. We do it every December, about the 11th, 12th time frame.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. We just did it. 22,000 we raised in 28 hours.
Well, I thank you for that, brother.
We're trying to get to the point where we do $1,000 an hour.
Oh, that'd be nice.
It's what we're aiming for. I mean, it's not all about the money, but
No.
we're doing 28 hours. It's kind of like that goal in our head. Let's get $1,000 per hour. And it's a cool thing. I mean, we have rock bands that, JJO bands that give us stuff. Mm-hmm. Like autographed albums, guitars to put up on an auction. And, I mean, some of that stuff goes insane. Like...
Yeah.
This year we had a Hell Yeah guitar that was autographed in 2017. We had it sitting at JJO for a while. And it's signed by Vinnie Paul, who was their drummer. If y'all know, he was the drummer for Pantera and Damage Plan and then Hell Yeah. And he died a few years ago. But it was signed by him, and it sat at JJO for 3 years. And we're like, what do we do with it? Don't know. Don't want to get rid of it.
Right.
And then this year I didn't talk to Randy about it because it's kind of a sore subject for us about how it ended up on the auction this year. But it ended up on the auction this year, brought in well over $1,000 just for that one guitar.
Wow.
And then I was trying to bid on this autographed vinyl from Bad Wolves, and someone outbid me. But that thing went way higher than I thought it would.
Really?
Yeah, that thing went crazy and high.
Because they're on their, what, third year out? Bad Wolves?
Fourth.
Is it their fourth?
Well, the fourth year of being popular.
Right, right.
But they're a great bunch of guys. I mean, we had them last year when we did the Radiothon. We had the Radiothon in conjunction with Five Finger Death Punch, Bad Wolves, Fire from the Gods, and 3 Days Grace concert.
Nice.
So we went right to the Coliseum and interviewed them on the air and blah, blah, blah. I mean, what a great bunch of guys. And for those who don't know, Five Finger Death Punch is huge into military, police, and fire. I mean, they go out of their way to give money to those organizations.
Yeah.
Well, Zoltan, who is the lead or rhythm guitarist for Five Finger and the head guy for Five Finger, is Bad Wolves' manager. Mm-hmm. And he also has Fire from the Gods under his label and 3 Days Grace now, too.
I didn't know that he had those two under. I knew he had Bad Wolves.
So, Bad Wolves and Fire from the Gods. I mean, A.J. Channing from Fire from the Gods. Whew, we started interviewing him. Randy had never interviewed him before. And that dude he's coming from the heart. And you know it within the first 5 seconds if you go back on JJO.com and listen to that interview. You know that guy's firing from the heart because he lays it all out there right away. But yeah, they were all really great guys, really down, and they're very serious about helping military people out.
Have you interviewed lead singer in Zoltan since they got sober?
Ivan? I've met them all.
Yeah. Since they got sober, though?
I'm a huge Five Finger fan, huge. So whenever they're at a show for us or whatever, I bug the hell out of Randy to let me get to meet him.
Yeah.
And he always makes it happen. So I've talked to all of them. I mean, we had Five Finger at Sonic Boom a couple different times, and Ivan and I talked backstage once in between the two bouts of sobriety, and then once after because they headlined the last Sonic Boom we did, and that was when he was sober, and we talked for 45 minutes each time, just out by the buses or whatever.
Can you tell the difference in him? I mean, because he's always high-strung anyway.
Yeah, but he's like a very spiritual kind of guy. I mean, not weird like spiritual, but he's definitely a vibe guy.
Deep.
Yeah.
Deep. I've seen a lot of his interviews and what have you, and both his parents. I mean, he's got a long list of military family members.
Yeah, he never comes on, though, during the radiothon. Zoltan always does. Zoltan called us from Spain. Yeah, they were on tour, and they were in Spain, and Zoltan called us on his dime just to make the radiothon.
And Zoltan was not born in this country.
Oh, no.
So,
and he's got some very, very deep thoughts on immigration, too.
Yes, he does. I mean, probably would not agree with the majority of the Dane County area.
Oh, no, definitely not. Tommy Vexed, either, the lead singer of Bad Wolves, go on his personal Facebook page, not the Bad Wolves one. Oh, yeah, he ain't walking down. Well, he's a big dude.
Yeah, I heard that.
That guy lifts weights like
really
every day.
See, I haven't seen that, but I've seen him standing next to people.
He's huge.
Height-wise, yeah.
But people, if he walked around Dane County and people knew how he thought, he'd get stoned.
Yeah, he'd definitely get beat. Well, they would try to anyway.
They would try to. I ain't messing with him.
He's another guy that's had a dark road.
Oh yeah, his brother tried killing him.
Yeah,
his brother.
Yeah. Yeah. So I look at guys like that and look at some of the veterans that have gone through some tough times and what have you, and they are relatable.
Oh yeah, I think Zoltan, being an immigrant, doing it the right way. I mean, that was a rough road to hoe for him. I don't know how much people know about it. I'm not going to explain it all, but this dude pretty much packed a suitcase and a guitar and came here and went straight to L.A.
Yeah.
And wanted to become a citizen. I mean, you can watch bands that grew up in the United States and went to L.A. and just got obliterated by the scene there and are nothing.
Right.
And have no respect for nothing. And Zoltan, just a total opposite. Just everything that dude has, he earned it and won, but he knows he didn't earn it alone.
Right. Yep. Yeah, he's a really down-to-earth guy from the interviews that I've watched of his and what have you. Even Ivan, when he's calm, is deep, really deep.
Oh yeah,
individual.
He's a very deep guy.
A normal person sitting around him when he's getting psyched or what have you would be like, whoa, but he really, I mean, he's just a deep dude.
And he's one of those guys too that loves very hard. I mean, he absolutely loves his kids, and because if you ever go see Five Finger in concert, he brings kids on stage.
Yep.
Because they're going to sing a song, and that floor is going to go nuts. And he knows what song it is.
Yep.
Everyone in the crowd knows what song it is. So he will pick out all these little kids and have them come on stage so they're safe. And then he'll say, okay, Show
Have at
them,
it.
show them how the big kids do it.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, he's a very caring guy, and that's the best way to describe him. He's very deep. If he's in it 110%.
Which is, I'm all for that.
Me too.
I'm all for that, Well, thank you, brother.
All right, thank you, man.
And we will catch you out on the road this summer, I'm sure.
Oh yeah,
Or spring.
we'll be on a few rides together, I'm sure.
All righty. For all the rest of you veterans out there, make sure you keep your head up and moving forward.